Good morning and welcome to meeting number 719 of Mumbai Toastmasters.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you so much, Divya, for that wonderful introduction. A very warm welcome to all my fellow Toastmasters and all our guests present here. My name is Pratyush, and I will be your host for this Toastmasters session. And we move on to the first session of the day, the prepared speeches. First up, we have Himanshu. When I asked Himanshu what his inflection point was, he said it was the birth of his miracle twin sons that made him transform from an atheist to a theist. Before I call upon Himanshu, I will call upon his evaluator, Mohsin Chogle, to explain his speaking role.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the day. My speaker, Toastmaster Himanshu, is attempting his icebreaker speech from the Pathway Leadership Development. The purpose of this speech is for the member to introduce himself or herself to the club and learn the basic structure of a public speech. Timer, please note that the speech timings are 4 to 6 minutes. I wish my speaker all the very best.
Thank you so much, Mohsin. So now we come to Himanshu's speech. Himanshu, so what? I am still alive. So what? I am still alive, Himanshu.
Thank you, Toastmaster Pratyush. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Thank
Are
you.
your timer cards clearly visible?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. By profession, I'm a businessman, but very passionate about yoga. I have had an exciting long life journey. Along my journey, I endeavored to collect some beautiful feathers for my cap, such as martial arts, hypnosis, windsurfing, paragliding, golfing, riding Harley motorcycle, jet skiing, kayaking, gymnastics, yoga, aerial yoga, acro yoga, and Malcolm. But what can I do with these feathers when I don't have the cap to pin them? The cap is yet to have it tailor-made through Toastmasters. That's the very reason for me to join Toastmasters with an expectation to master my communication skills, become very expressive in public speaking, and contribute to society by sharing my learnings and experiences, eventually live up to the purpose of my life, which is I for Inspire. I would like to share a dramatic and life-transforming experience I went through in 2011. I was then passing through the worst phase or tsunami of my life. I could feel myself slipping into depression. Coincidentally, just around the same time, in 2011, Japan had worst ever tsunami. As usual, one evening, on returning home from work, I switched on my TV for CNN News. They were running a documentary showing extent of damage due to tsunami in Japan. They briefly interviewed a Japanese man in his 50s named Sakamoto, who had a lovely beach house living with his wife and children, but everything except for him was engulfed by tsunami. The remnant were just debris of his beautiful beach house. CNN reporter asked him now that he had lost everything, but practically left with nothing. So what was he going to do? This gentleman murmured in Japanese with CNN voiceover translation. Yes, indeed. Every beautiful possession that I had, everything, my wife, my children, everything, all lost forever. Pausing for a moment, looking at the debris of his house, he says, so what? I'm still alive. I will rebuild everything all over once again. These empowering words were pathbreaker for me. It seemed like a total reflection of my own disastrous life situation. Suddenly it felt like a roadmap for beginning a new chapter of my life. So what? I'm still alive. Words kept on echoing in my mind from next day morning onwards. I began creating an action plan. First significant action I took was moving out from my 25-year-old self-owned residence where I'd begun to sense immense negativity. So I moved to a rental apartment in a beautiful location right in front of the beach. This new home was giving me immense peace. At night, while going to bed, I would feel as if sound of waves was singing lullaby for me to put me to sleep. After having stayed there for 3 years in this rented property, I was very fortunate to buy out the same property. God Almighty had been so kind to me. I felt like paying back to the society as an expression of gratitude. I saw people on the beach running, walking, or doing some crazy workouts, but they all lacked much required flexibility and serenity. So I watched myself and announced to give free sessions as Kar Seva of Surya Namaskar and Yoga every Saturday morning for about 150 minutes. This Kar Seva is now still uninterrupted from last 7 years. I hosted many events of yoga, Surya Namaskar, and got actively involved in maintaining of beach and beach gardens and many other social activities like collecting donations for 80 beach cleaners, etc. Being selflessly serving gave me recognition from many NGOs and meeting like-minded people. Above all, inner joy and peace. I never ever felt lonely. Becoming more proficient in yoga after 3 years, about 3 years back, I created a very unique, globally, first of its kind ever Surya Namaskar with chakra meditation on mantras and also chair Surya Namaskar, primarily devised for my mother, elderly and heavily bodied people. This creation proved to be a great immunity booster to many, especially during these COVID times, and received overwhelming response. Most of my activities can be viewed if you subscribe my YouTube channel, himanshumehta.co.in. This is the way I'm trying best to make my life worthy of being alive. Thank you. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Himanshu. That was really interesting. Now, this was Himanshu's icebreaker speech. And as such, we have a rule here in Mumbai Toastmasters that when an icebreaker speech concludes, all of us stand up and give a standing ovation. So I would call upon everyone present here to stand up and give a round of applause. I will hand the torch over to Jyot, who will take over for the general evaluation session. Over to you, Jyot.
Thank you so much, Pratyush. And just like today's theme, which says we need to take a leap, in order to leap forward, we need to sometimes take a step back. Our evaluators today will give feedback to our prepared speakers to help them understand what they could have done better and leap forward in their public speaking journey. It is said feedback is the breakfast of champions. And very often, just taking that moment to introspect on what we could have done better can make us better speakers. As a general evaluator, I have 3 responsibilities. 1, to call on the speech evaluators to give feedback to our prepared speakers. 2nd, to call the tag team to give their reports for the meeting. And finally, the 3rd portion where I will give my feedback on the meeting. I would now want to call the timer to give the timing guidelines for the evaluations. Over to you.
Thank you, Jyot. For speech evaluations, each evaluator has 2 to 3 minutes. I will show the green card at the end of 2 minutes, the yellow card at the end of 2 minutes, 30 seconds, and the red card at the end of 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. So now, when I asked each of the evaluators a couple of questions about when did they feel that taking a break helped them move forward in achieving their goals, and each of them shared very different perspectives, and it's very interesting to see how the same thing can be looked at in so many different ways. So I'd want to start off with the evaluations first, and our first evaluator for today is Mohsin. When I asked him what when did he feel that taking a break helped him actually move forward and achieve his goals, he said was after while preparing for his 12th standard G preparations, he felt completely burnt out during one of the months. And just 1 month prior to the exam, he took a trip to Bandardara. And this is something which actually rejuvenated him and helped him actually get back on track and focus on his goals. Just shows that how sometimes taking a break and a vacation can actually be a blessing in disguise. With this, I now hand over the stage to our first evaluator, Mohsin, to give his evaluation for Toastmaster Himanshu.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Before I start, I just want to ask if I'm audible and visible.
Yes, you're audible, visible.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and my dear guests, especially my speaker, Toastmaster Himanshu, who I can't see in the video right now. Quiet the mind and the soul will speak. A beautiful quote by the great Buddha. I feel this quote beautifully encapsulates the crux of your speech when you mentioned how Mr. Sakamoto changed your life when he said, "So what? I live." Toastmaster Himanshu, when you started your speech, you mentioned about the various feathers that you have accumulated and accomplished in your life, but you're wishing to find that cap at Toastmasters. So let us all help you make that cap, CAP, and look at what was good in your speech. Number one, C, confidence. Himanshu, for an icebreaker speech, you were oozing with confidence with every line that you spoke. You had exceptional body posture and body movement when you said like engulfing something and different stages in your speech. Next, A. A for authenticity. Toastmaster Himanshu, we could all feel and understand what a role yoga has played in your life and how it has turned your life around. We could all understand the impact that it has had on you and we could relate to it. Lastly, P, progress. Toastmaster Himanshu, you mentioned and stated what you expected out of yourself after joining Toastmasters, that is becoming a better speaker, a better communicator. And in that, you connected with the audience because we were reminded of the reason why we joined Toastmasters in the first place. So kudos on creating that connect. Now, an important part of progressing is evaluating and understanding things that you could do better. So I have two recommendations for you. PJ. P. Now, this recommendation doesn't necessarily relate to how you spoke, but it greatly impacted your speech. Your phone notifications were switched on. So at regular intervals, we could hear the WhatsApp noise that dinged. And it took our attention away from your speech. So next time you do give a speech, keep in mind that your noise-making devices are kept on silent. Next, J, jargons. I feel your speech was filled with jargons, which I felt was superfluous. When you mentioned all the different asanas and name of the things that you do in yoga. Now, for someone who has no background in yoga like me, I felt it slightly difficult to understand certain parts of your speech. What you could have done is maybe demonstrated the pose yourself, or since you're already sharing your screen, show pictures of people actually doing that. When you mentioned the yoga that you invented, that Surya Namaskar infused with mantras and so on and so forth. All in all, a fantastic speech filled with confidence, authenticity, and a strive to progress. If you just work on these two recommendations, that is switching off your phone notifications and ensuring that speech isn't filled with jargons, I'm sure you will be able to build the care that you're looking for. Thank you, and over to you, General Evaluator.
On to the next role player, that is the listener Poonam, for her listener quiz. I'm sure this will be an enjoyable experience for all of us. I urge everyone to participate. Over to you, Poonam.
Thank you, General Evaluator. I hope you all are having a good time. This is the best part of the meeting, I promise. And I promise one more thing, that my questions aren't superfluous. So yes, let's move on. There are two rules of the game. Firstly, the role players cannot participate for the same. Secondly, whenever you want to answer, you can physically raise your hand, or you can press the raise hand button on your screen. I hope I'm clear. Okay, let's go ahead with the first question. Question is, can someone tell me what is the profession of Himanshu? Yes, Sahil.
Yeah, he's a yoga instructor.
Anyone else? Krishna, I have to give this to him. I'm sorry, he's been waving a lot.
So Himanshu is a Harley Davidson rider. He's a yoga instructor. He's a paraglider. He served in the Indian Army. He's done everything. There's nothing Himanshu Mehta has not done.
No, actual profession of Himanshu Mehta is Sanjay Gupta, please.
He's a businessman.
Yes, right answer. So the last question, again about Himanshu, because he's done exceedingly well according to me in his icebreaker speech. Since how many years has Himanshu been teaching yoga in the Juhu beach? Yes, Mr. Anurag Srivastav. Can we unmute Mr. Anurag, please?
It is 7 years.
7 years is the right answer. I hope you all enjoyed the session. I had a fabulous time. Thank you.
To turn on your camera so that we can post for a picture. Request all of you to switch on your videos. You can show whatever pose that you want, like this, thumbs up. Or you could put a heart reaction on the emotions button, reactions button. Vinaya, please let me know once we are done. My cheeks are hurting, and so are others. Thank you so much, Abhinaya. That brings us to the close of meeting number 719. I would request all the guests to stay back. We will have a guest briefing session conducted by our VP membership, Krishna, and I would request